Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in again. I am Kaylee Batesman, the Content Director at SheCanCode, and today we're discussing how to make a transition into the tech industry and what it's like to switch. Now, when transitioning into a new career, it is expected that you might have a few gaps in your skills and knowledge. It's important, therefore, to prepare yourself properly for your chosen career ahead as you strive to differentiate yourself from the more experienced competition. Now, I'm joined today by the wonderful Tigerlily Jagun-Howell, Associate Product Manager at Moonpig, who is here to share a career pivot story and life at Moonpig. Hello, Tigerlily, welcome.
Hello, thank you so much, Kaylee, for having me. It's honestly an absolute honour to be
here. Thank you for joining. We love the fact that you're joining us today because we'd love to hear. We're going to talk a little bit about your career pivots and how you got into the tech industry. So can we kick off with a bit of background about yourself and how you got in?
Yeah, well, I actually have a background in criminal justice. So I did my degree in criminology. I thought I could change the world of crime. Well, for some time I probably did and impacted it where I could, whether that be through like working in the prisons, working in the courts, writing pre-sentence reports, or working as a probation officer, working in resettlement and rehabilitation, and with my last stint being working with victims of crime. So it's, yeah, that's more or less was my life for the past 10 years, or the previous 10 years, should I say. And yeah, as I was just doing it more and more and more, I thought to myself, there's so much more out there that I could probably be doing. I think crime is an amazing place to work if you are working with people that commit crime and you're a part of the change in their lives and their habits and their choices. But it can be quite a sad place to work when you kind of are reminded on a daily basis why people make the choices they make, whether it be through poverty, whether it be through inequality, whether it be through just mental health. It can be quite sad. And I knew that I'm such a positive person. I didn't really want to feel like my passion left me before I left the industry. So decided to start looking into other things.
Yeah, it sounded like you started with the idea though of making change and doing something good and as you said, I think you probably realized I must leave. I've done my part and I must move into a sector where I'm assuming you thought I can still make change and I can still help people, but without that negative feeling that I come home with every day.
Yeah, definitely, because it was definitely, as much as it could be rewarding, it was also quite emotionally taxing. And I don't know, I think the older I became, the more sensitive and delicate my thick wall became to that type of information or that type of stuff that was going on in the world. It was just like, yeah, actually, as I'm thinking about settling down, becoming a wife, I'm single as a Pringle, but yeah, like becoming a wife and having children, I just don't want to know that these things are going on every single day, within those roles in my personal life. I thought to myself, yeah, I want to step away from this because it was taken over. So yeah.
Yes, definitely. And take those skills and the things that you've learned in that sector and transfer them. I mean, there must have been loads of transferable skills that you've brought over. I mean, I'm thinking skills, but what about, skills and qualifications? Do you think would be important that you've brought over?
Weirdly enough, when I was actually working at the MOJ, I completed a Prince 2. Don't know why. I just completed a Prince 2. I just thought, it'd be good to have this type of like project management and agile knowledge. But I would say constantly, one of the things that you had to do when you're working in MOJ was training. There was so many courses you had to do just to kind of, because as a civil servant, you have to be seen that you are also moving with the times. So whether it be, having knowledge on the different cognitive thinking and behaviors and like mental health issues, how to also work in a workspace in terms of like data protection, because everything you're handling is somebody's personal information, from what they divulge to you, to what you are sent from different different agencies you work with, whether it be mental health or the doctors or social services, child protection, home office. There's just a realm of different people you work with on a daily basis. So constantly we were doing different training, which I would say, but when I then got into tech, it just was like, oh, okay, oh, this continues here as well. They do the same stuff here, things like whistleblowing, or things like, knowing how to, like, information security, just so much things that are transferable that I didn't realize would be until I was gearing up for that change. I think the lack of knowing what skills would be transferable probably kept me, there for longer. Had I have known that actually these skills will be valuable elsewhere, I probably would have made the jump a lot sooner.
Yeah, and it's quite a mindset of somebody as well to be in a job where they're okay with the fact that you have to keep training and constantly learning, because not everybody has that mindset. But we hear that a lot in the tech industry, that the people that are here, they want to keep developing and pushing forward, and that's something quite unique about this industry. You have to stay ahead of the curve, but it just sounds like you just naturally, came over and thought, that's fine. I can keep, learning and moving forward. That's something I've been doing for years.
Yeah. That if I'm honest with you, I was very fortunate to have a brother that has worked in the technology industry his whole life. But he did do, does have a computer science background, does have business and like so much. He had different qualifications and different skill set to what I have. So I just would think, oh, I would love to, when he'd come home and tell me things that he'd been doing, or when work would send him to different countries, I was just like, oh, I'd love to do that. And I think he could see that. And he says, I think you'd be a really good product manager. And I said, why? And this was when I was working in the courts. So a lot of that was like looking into data, gathering requirements, working with, looking into patterns of crime and working with different stakeholders to understand what could be possibly done as an alternative to somebody going to custody. Is there any programs that we could do, we could create for this person instead? And obviously then having the power to influence a judge to not send somebody to prison, and if anything, to take on the proposal you've given. And I didn't understand it then. And I said, oh, well, what's a product manager? And he said, well, I'm not going to spoon feed you. Do your own research, I'd be able, once you've done that, we'll look further into it. Because at the time I was just adding in just some more, I tried to keep my CV up to date so that it's not lost. And I was adding stuff into my CV, and he said, oh yeah, he was just looking at my CV from afar and said, yeah, you've got a lot of, I think he said, talk me through your job. What do you do? And I was telling him, and he was like, yeah. And then he says that and he walks away. And then I then start looking at what a product manager is and stuff. And we then speak again. And he said, take a job spec from a product manager and look at what you do now in your job and see what transferable skills, what can you say you currently do that you feel you'd be strong enough to do that as well. And they just started to become quite clear parallels, but the difference is my products were my people, the people I was working with. But now when I think about when I'm working at Moonpig, it's a customer facing tool, it's a customer facing organization, business, company. So to then think that, oh, okay, yeah, actually, this becomes more or less, you're just looking at it through a different angle. Instead of looking at people that are committing crime, you're looking at people that are trying to buy a card, but it's still people at the center of it. Yeah. So yeah.
And it took somebody to point that out. Did you think before, in terms of it's skills in tech. People tend to think that's not for me because I don't have, you know, a computer science degree from university, and they just kind of, you know, they don't even consider it. They think, you know, my chance is gone, I'm not even going to consider it. But like you said, there's so many roles that people don't know about. Product management is one of them.
Yeah, definitely. To be honest, I'd probably say for about 2-3 years, I was thinking, oh gosh, wish I could do something else, but I just didn't know what that would be. Like, I didn't think it would be something that would allow me to be both creative, but also at the same time academic, like, because I'm naturally an academic, but then at the same time, in my spare time, I've always been a very creative person. So in my, like, you know, my time. So I was trying to think, oh, what could I do that would allow me to have that balance? Or but it was difficult. I started looking into different things, but then I thought, it didn't really feel like it would be for me. Like, initially I was going to go down the route of like international relations, but that involved going to go and do an MA in it. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't want to go back to uni to change careers.
Yeah, that's quite a commitment. And we hear that often on here when people talk about changing careers, the thought of having to retrain, or, you know, I've had ladies on here tell me I had to take, you know, I had to make the commitment of making a very intense boot camp over several months, or I had to give up my job to do it. And financially, you're thinking, can I do this? Can I actually? And right at the end, you might think, well, that was a gamble, and actually, I didn't get the job I wanted. You know, it's such a big career move to make a big decision. In terms of Moonpig, how does Moonpig support you in your new career? I mean, it sounds like they were okay with a career transition, and they sound very supportive in that. What happened there?
If I'm honest with you, I was so fortunate because I had prior to, so I before obviously joining Moonpig, and I still am part of a tech community that's trying to more or less challenge, well, not trying, that works on the issues around like diversity or the lack of diversity in tech, called Black Valley. And I was fortunate enough to ascertain a space on it. It's like quite well sought after. As you can imagine, everybody's trying to, you know, jump into tech, and I think probably more so after COVID, where people felt like they wanted a job that was remote, where they didn't have to work with people, or feel like they would lose their jobs because, you know, of having to face people like in the public. And I had a mentor from there. And if I'm honest with you, without even having to really look for it, I had somebody from Black Valley give me a nudge and say, hey, I've just seen this role for Moonpig. It's an associate product management role. I think you should apply. And I looked at it, and I looked at the job spec, and as you can imagine, the information that I'd received from Black Valley was like, go after an associate product management role. They're more likely to kind of take you on and meet you where you are. But what I was finding so much was they were expecting an associate to have 3 to 5 years product management experience, and I didn't understand it. And I was even interviewing, and I was just still like, this doesn't make sense. How can somebody that's entry level have 3 to 5 years experience? Yeah. This is strange. So it was quite demotivating. And then Moonpig's associate product management job comes up, and I look at the spec, and straight away it says in bold, clear writing, you do not need to have a background in tech. We want to make sure that we are diversifying our portfolio of talent. And we want to see, you know, they were thinking of like the people that are trying to transition like myself into a new career, or returning mums from like maternity leave or long-term childcare. And I just thought to myself, oh my gosh, this can't be true. This can't be real. And I was looking, and that same day, I've just poured my heart and soul into this application. It's really simple in terms of like, it asks 3 questions. And don't get me wrong, there was like, probably I think it was a 4 or 5 stage interview process. But, you know, knowing that actually it was all about who you are, what skill set you bring that is unique, is a fresh perspective, was just, I was just like, no, I need to get this job.
Yeah, and they just, this them knowing that you're willing to learn, and oh gosh, companies actually practicing what they preach, because you hear it so often, don't you? Oh, there's a tech talent shortage and companies need to do more, and companies need to work harder to find talent and then encourage that talent to learn and progress within their own company. And you're right, you'll get on an interview for something and then they want years of experience that you have, and you think, well, you're not going to invest in me, are you, at this point? So
it was crazy. So I think because of what the job it was itself and what they were expecting from you, they already knew, you know, that they were gonna, they had to support us through this change and through this process. And they were so willing, they've been so willing to meet me where I'm at, you know, for whether that be through coaching, whether that be through just like when I'm just, you know, just giving really good feedback all the time, and challenging me, stretching me as well, like giving me tasks, giving me projects that I'm like, oh my gosh, what? You know.
That surely is I mean, what you were looking for anyway from your switching job, but it would make you feel more loyal, like you want to stay, and you know, want to put your all into that company, whereas you'd kind of reached the end of your road at in your last career, and it sounded like you were just looking for something that was going to really lift you.
And I think one of the things that for me really stood out about Moonpig, and still does, is the nurturing aspect of, you know, management of the company as well, because coming into a space where not only is it a new industry, it's also a culture shock as well. You know, it's a behavior shock, it's a industry shock as well. Just, you know, working in an MOJ was amazing, but at the same time, you're not selling, like maybe we're selling cards and flowers and gifts. Working in MOJ, we were focusing on there was risk management, trying to prevent a crime from happening, or somebody's coming out from prison, having to inform the victims. It was a lot of pressure. So people didn't really have time to necessarily be nice to one another. They were just getting it done, moving like robots, because, you know, take your eye off the ball and a serious further offense can happen and your name is on it, and nobody wants that. So it's like walking on eggshells. Whereas Moonpig, you just felt like, okay, I'm coming into a completely new world here, but I've been allowed to be completely vulnerable and transparent with what I do and what I don't know, and what I want to learn and how I want to grow, and to be a part of an organization that's saying, hey, we've got you, we've got your support, let's see where you're at right now and let's work towards things, and actually having like objectives and naturally constantly updating like my learnings, and, you know, also like allowing me to even be a part of a training platform as well, that, you know, they've obviously covered in terms of cost wise, so that I could develop my skills as well from an external provider. So it's been an amazing like overwhelming experience. I won't lie, like completely overwhelming. Like I still pinch myself because I'm just like, how is this possible? Like,
I'm assuming MOJ, there would have been a process for things, quite rightly, you know, a process that people follow. It sounds quite rigid in a way, whereas now, you know, they're probably asking your opinion at Moonpig and what you want to do, and it sounds creative, and that you can really flourish. Did you think that though, when you were coming into the tech industry? Did a lot of people, they have this misconception about tech, it's boring and it's rigid and it's dry and people just sit with their headphones on all day? Did you think that, or what were you hoping?
I did. I thought it'd be full of people that were like really, really smart and really uptight, and, you know, geniuses. And don't get me wrong, there are really, really smart people and geniuses, you know, in tech, but they're not uptight. They're fun. They're just regular people being creative, working together, collaborating and making magic happen. And I definitely, that was not my like, yeah, my concept of it. I did think that it's probably going to be really boring, and I'm going to be like the most outgoing person. And it'll feel like initially I was like, okay, I've got to wear a suit, got to wear high heels, because that was what I was used to, and that was what I thought tech was about as well. And then I remember my first office visit, I was told, oh, don't worry about, just come as you are, come however you want. And don't get me wrong, I love wearing suits and heels. I don't know if it's to do with like power dressing, but at the same time, what I didn't want to do was stand out. Like coming in my first week, I just wanted to fit in. And yeah, I think I wore a blazer, a tank top, and some jeans and trainers, and that felt so weird coming in and just seeing everyone's just, hey, how are you? You're right. And just, learning more about people that I'd known for 5 minutes over a cup of coffee, whereas I worked in a team for a year and had no idea who they were or even how they looked, because they wouldn't even switch on their videos and on camera and stuff. So it was such a refreshing but a very overwhelming change, and it definitely proved my prerequisites completely wrong. Like I could never in my wildest dreams have imagined it would be like this. Like,
yeah. Do you find you're calmer in yourself in terms of work-life balance and everything about the industry? Do you just now you think back to the industry that you used to work in and you think, oh, you know what, I'm so much calmer in myself, and it sounds like you look forward to work now as well, which makes such a difference in everybody's life, doesn't it? Not dreading, like the Sunday scaries, like when you're at school and you don't want to go back on the Monday. Nobody wants that in their job.
Like for me, watching the news was my Sunday scary, because I was just thinking, oh, I hope one of my clients wouldn't be on there, or I dealt with high profile cases, so it was like that was my Sunday scary. Whereas now I'm excited to go to work. It's refreshing, it's so chilled out, and also my brain capacity, I'm constantly always learning, and I'm just like, maybe for want of a better word, for instance, if I go into Sainsbury's, that experience in Sainsbury's is a learning experience for me. There's something I could take from that shopping experience that I can take to Moonpig, because of the nature of what the work is. Like nothing I do, I find is in vain. There's always something that's a learning for the rest of the team, and how we share and how we contribute. Nothing's too small, like nothing gets overlooked. Whereas what would I be able to say about, going to Sainsbury's, working in MOJ, it's just irrelevant. Okay, we don't care about your shopping trip.
I just and as well that you don't mind that bleeds into your personal life because you enjoy it.
Definitely. Like I'm excited. Like I love reading different texts or learning different books. Like I've got a stack of books and they're all to do with tech and stuff, but it's enjoyable. Like I'm just like, oh my gosh, didn't know that was the case. And these are things that that I then am able to apply to my work or share with my team or the wider product team. And whether or not it's utilized straight away, it's something that we can always refer back to. So I think one thing that is inevitable is change. That will never stop happening. And I think working in a tech space allows you to kind of embrace that the most, that knowing, okay, this is always going to happen. If anything, we're being pioneers, we're part of that journey because we are a part of that change as well. So it's a great thing to kind of witness and be like, oh my gosh, that person's the one that's done that and they've left their mark there. Like it's a beautiful thing to witness.
Yes, definitely. And you mentioned that you were part of the tech group before. Did you have any technical knowledge before though? Had you trained in anything or given anything a go?
I would say, just doing the Prince 2, obviously becoming more familiar with Agile. I did loads of webinars, and obviously like the mentorship program that I did give me like a certification, but I didn't have any technical background.
Yeah, which is great to hear, and what our listeners love to hear on this podcast, because there is, as we've mentioned, that misconception that you have to have technical background, you have to have certain qualifications in order to step foot into the tech industry. And as you've mentioned, there are just, so many different roles where it's not needed, or if you get in the right company, they'll show you exactly what you need to do anyway.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because even when you get in, like, there's just constant training. It never stops. So I think just showing a curiosity to learning, and a willingness to learn, and actually, like, what are you doing in your own time to kind of show that you are ready to take this step into transition into something new. I think doing those type of things, like webinars and like LinkedIn Learning, or joining not necessarily even a boot camp, but just subscribing to different texts and different literature, things that are going to help you to be able to really understand the role and the industry you're trying to get into. Because I think, without that, it's almost as though you don't have like that knowledge, and without that knowledge is powerful, right? So I think just showing that willingness to learn, I think, is something that I think recruiters find valuable, and see, like, okay, this person's actually demonstrated they're ready for this change. I think it's really easy for us to say, I want something new, but you've not done your part of it, kind of thing. So.
Yes, exactly. And in terms of working at Moonpig, what has been the most interesting project you've worked on so far? I mean, that sticks in your mind.
There's loads of interesting projects. I would probably say it's probably recency bias, because it's more recent. I work as a co-chair for the Embrace Committee, which is more or less educating myself on better racial awareness and cultural enrichment. And that's like one of the ERGs that we have at Moonpig. So we also have like gender balance committee and LGBTQ plus committee. But obviously, the Embrace Committee is the one that's thinking about, race and culture. And we started the kicked off the year, and obviously this is it's a voluntary work. It's a side project. It wasn't like my main project that I work on. But I would say, working on this project, what we more or less done was we thought about how could we like act as a consultant, or act as like advisors, which is more or less our mission, to serve like the Moonpig group in becoming better versed in racial and cultural differences, like not only in the workplace but also externally as well for our customers. And we then just started looking at just looking at widely all the cultures and all the celebrations and all the occasions that exist. Looked at that, we have all the cards, we have those things already, but then just started thinking about how could we become so personalized, where if we are recommending, if somebody's coming on to buy a card for Eid, they then will come on and see all the relevant gifts for that occasion. And yes, that was more or less one of the projects. Still a work in progress, but we kicked off with that project, and it just yielded really good results, and we increased the gifts that were being gift purchases. So it's nice to kind of feel like you are also affecting change that impacts our customers, and knowing, oh my gosh, like I've been a part of that process, and more so because it's a passion project. It's not necessarily something that I go to work to do, but what I love about it is the fact that Moonpig have allowed me and given me that platform to work on something so amazing that just benefits society and the communities as a whole.
Because did you think when you joined it was just going to be selling cards? I mean, did you have that kind of those thoughts when you got in, like, oh, I know them, they sell cards? But actually the projects that you work on they're so in-depth and creative, and would really seeing those gifts that are related to whatever it is that you're celebrating actually would really make a difference to somebody.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you think you were going to be doing that, or Would you think back when you worked at the MOJ that you'd be doing something like that?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I mean, I Moonpig has always been a company that I've been familiar with anyway. Like I think I got my first Moonpig card probably about, maybe about 20 years ago. So they've always been a company that I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I use them anyway. And so I guess it's always easy to work for a company that you're familiar with already. But I guess I didn't really know when I was applying for the job, like what, like, okay, what could I do that was going to make sure that customer buying a card's experience is going to change, and you just have no idea how much thought goes into it. And yeah, so it's mind-blowing, because although we sell cards and gifts, a lot goes behind making sure that experience for that customer is perfect, so yeah
Yeah, definitely.
I have no idea. Yeah, definitely not.
We are almost out of time, but I have a question to ask you about advice for our listeners. Do you have any advice for those who are thinking about a career transition, moving into tech, that they might be unsure, that it might be later in life, they might be thinking what you were thinking, they might be stuck there thinking, well, I might go, but I might not go. Is there anything you wish someone had told you?
Yeah, so if I'm honest with you, I think I'm so fortunate with the men I have in my life and the women I have in my life, and everyone, like just the tribe I have. But so when I mentioned my brother before, it was my older brother, and then my younger brother had alluded to a quote by Todd Henry. And I've actually, aside from just the quote, I've actually given like a bit of a breakdown with like what he means. And if I'm honest with you, I think it was this quote that was shared with me that made me realize it's never too late. Like it is never too late. So somebody had asked Todd Henry, what would you say is like the richest country, the richest place in the world? And he said the cemetery, the graves, because people go to a lot of people go to be buried, and they're taken away taken with them all the magic and all of this knowledge. And I was just like, what? And I went and looked for it myself, and it simply says, what's it called? Do not go to your grave and you carry inside you the best that you have. Always choose to die empty. And dying empty is more or less is a new expression, and it's unique in its own way. But it's talking about like, what is the new normal? So like if you die empty of all the goodness that is within you, and you deliver it into the world before you leave it, if you have an idea, perform it. If you have knowledge, give it out. If you have a goal, achieve it. Love, share, distribute. Do not keep it inside. Do not keep the goodness inside of you and die full of ideas and be a delicious meal for the earthworms in the grave to eat. And honestly,
I love that.
That has been something that has stuck with me since I've heard it. And I've just always thought, yeah, I want to die empty. I want to die empty. I don't want to die full. Yeah. And I think, so I just feel like if you have something inside you and you feel like you want a change, you've just got to be the change you want to see. You just got to go for it. And it isn't going to be easy, and it's scary, and it's a change, and it's uncomfortable. But I do feel that through adversity comes creativity, and, it really is better to try and fail than not try at all and never know, kind of thing.
Yeah, because what was the worst that could have happened really when you wanted to move careers? If you didn't work, you could have gone back, or you could have tried something else. I think people just kind of think they get stuck in their career for life, and that's it. Which is sad to hear when the tech industry are crying out for amazing people.
Yeah, honestly, it's like my great granny, she passed at 102, and I met her when she was 98. Because we live in different countries. And when I met her, and I was just like, do you feel like you know it all? And she's like, no, I'm still learning. And I just,
Oh my gosh, in 98, oh my gosh.
and she was 98 and she said she's still learning. I just finished my GCSEs and I thought I knew it all. And my great granny of 98 years old said, I'm still learning. And it's little things like that. I think sometimes we get these clues and we get these reminders from all around us, like whether we're going on a shopping trip, whether it's something, you know, old wives' tales, something our relatives have told us or a friend, and they act as almost like little signs for us to act on it. And until we do it, we keep on getting it. And I think if you keep getting this feeling to do something, just do it, because what is the worst that can happen? You get no. We've been told no all of our lives. Like, you have to get comfortable with hearing the word no and going after your first yes, right? So
yes, I love that. I heard a lady on here recently who said to me, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
yeah.
And I thought that's absolutely right. And it exactly just echoed what you just said, that it's okay. I think people think sometimes, especially if you're starting to think about a new career and you don't necessarily like the one you're in, that the grass is greener and everything's going to be fantastic on the other side, but you have to get there first. You know, it's not going to magically happen.
Definitely. And to be honest, it's then also a completely different, it's then also a different stage, a different level, a different thing you don't have to think about now once you are there, because you need to stay there and you need to maintain it. And you're going through all of these emotional changes and you're like, oh my gosh. And it can be an overwhelming experience, but then you then have to keep looking back and thinking where you've come from as well. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't actually necessarily get easier once you get in, but it becomes more beautiful. And it, you know, there's just so much more to it, kind of thing, because now I think the real work begins once you now are there and you're like, okay, fine, I'm here. What am I going to do now? You know, kind of thing. Yeah. And it's up to you whether you sink or swim. But I think like there's so much room, there's so much space for everybody. And there's such a misconception that you need to have a computer science degree or be tech savvy to be in tech. No, we need such a wide variety of different personalities and different experiences and different skill sets, because that's actually how tech becomes more rich as well, you know, from hearing firsthand from the people that work within it, you know, because they are also customers, you know. So yeah.
Did you feel strange when you moved over and you were experienced, but actually you were experienced in work, but actually you weren't experienced in your new career? By the sounds of it, it was quite easy at the right company, but do you think that would have been a bit unusual if you'd stepped into the wrong company? You probably would have left quite quick.
Yeah, definitely, because I think, you know, it's one thing that you've come, I came from being an expert, and then now I'm a novice, a beginner, and, you know, you have to embrace that you're learning and you don't know it all. And sometimes, you're battling with yourself, kind of thing, because you're almost trying to kind of go into this new industry and be at the level you were where you've come from in terms of like your knowledge, and you want to prove and really, you know, show off and be like, yeah, I'm doing amazing. But actually it takes a while before you get there. And I think, being in the wrong company, that might be a problem sometimes, because obviously you need to also make sure that you are being looked after, you are being nurtured, and that people are being honest enough to say to you, hey, we understand that, you know, you've transitioned to something new, but you have to let go, because that's the thing. It's almost you're relearning and you're unlearning some of the things that are no longer valuable to you.
Yeah.
You know, you need to let them go and not bring them into a new place, because actually it has no space there, and just take with you what you need. So that can sometimes be difficult, but once you get the knack of it, and it's not an overnight thing, but with the right mentors, the right leadership, the right management, and the right colleagues and peers, you'll get there, like literally, you'll get there.
Yeah. Well, that is a lovely point to end on, because we're already out of time. Tigerlily, thank you so much. It has been so much fun having you on here today and hearing about your career journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Kaylee. Honestly, it's been amazing. I'm so grateful, so honoured. And I just hope somebody finds it useful, literally. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you to everybody listening, as always. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you again next time.